Bernd stood at the window of his small apartment in Herrenberg, Germany, and stared out into the gray April sky. He was 22 years old the last time he had felt truly happy. Back then, he still had a girlfriend, Lena. They had spent 3 years together, and he had believed it was forever. But 8 months ago, she had broken up with him. "I need space," she had said. Space for another man, as he later found out. Since that day, Bernd had been trapped in his own thoughts. His job as a mechanical engineer helped him get through the days. But every evening, the memories came back like an old, rusty anchor. Now he had 2 weeks of vacation. 2 weeks in which he finally wanted to do something that would pull him out of his rut. He dragged the old trailer out of the garage, the one with the small sailboat that had been sitting there for years. He had actually planned to scrap the boat long ago. The hull was dull, the rigging frayed, and the mast had dark, rotten spots at the base. But something inside him resisted. "One last time," he muttered, and hooked the trailer to his old station wagon. The next morning, he set off. Lake Constance was calling him. Not the big tourist spots, but the quiet side near Immenstad. He knew a small harbor there where he could be alone. The drive took almost 3 hours. When he arrived, the sky had already brightened. He lowered the boat into the water, carefully, almost tenderly. The old boat rocked gently, as if it wanted to say, "I'm still here." Bernd only packed the essentials: a cooler with bread, cheese, and water, sunscreen, and a light jacket. He didn't want to do much, just sail out to the middle of the lake, lie down, and let his thoughts drift. Maybe the wind would carry them away. Around 10 in the morning, he pushed off. The lake was mirror calm, not a breeze. Bernd raised the sail halfway, let it hang loosely, and used the small outboard motor. Once he was out, he lay down on the narrow bench, closed his eyes, and let the sun shine on his face. For the first time in months, he felt something like peace. The thoughts of Lena grew quieter. Instead, other images came: his childhood, the Bible stories his grandmother had read to him, and the quiet feeling that someone was there who would never leave him: Jesus. He hadn't talked much about it since the breakup, but deep inside, the faith was still there, like an old friend patiently waiting. Around noon, he ate a cheese sandwich. By 2:30, he had dozed off. Then the wind came. At first, it was only a soft whisper. Bernd knew these gusts on Lake Constance. They appeared suddenly, out of nowhere, and could turn into a real storm within minutes. He sat up and blinked against the sun. The wind grew stronger, the sail began to flap loudly. He quickly stood up, tightened the mainsail, and trimmed the sheets. The boat heeled slightly. He steered toward the harbor, which was still a good 2 kilometers away. But something was wrong. The mast vibrated. A quiet, grinding sound that he felt more than heard. The rotten spots at the base, he had seen them but ignored them. Now, with more speed and the heel, the mounting broke. The mast tilted forward and the sail whipped wildly. Bernd reacted instinctively. He threw himself forward, grabbed the halyard, and pulled the sail down with all his strength. The canvas flapped like an angry animal, but he managed it. The boat righted itself and now drifted only with the hull. "Help!" he shouted loudly, hands cupped around his mouth. "Over here, help!" In the distance, he saw a small motorboat. It was approaching quickly. 4 figures on board, one at the wheel, the other 3 sitting or standing at the bow. The boat was white with blue stripes, and a powerful 90-horsepower outboard roared. "Hang on," called a clear voice. "We're coming." The motorboat turned and came alongside. The woman at the helm, tall, athletic, with short dark hair, held the boat perfectly against the rising wind. She clearly had a Lake Constance boating license and knew exactly what she was doing. The other 3 helped Bernd secure his boat with a line. A thicker rope was tied around the bow. "Are you okay?" the woman at the wheel called. Her voice was calm but firm. Bernd nodded and climbed over. "Thank you. The mast, it's done for. We can see that. We'll tow you in. Hold on tight." The four young women introduced themselves as the motorboat slowly but safely made its way toward the harbor. The wind was now howling, and waves slapped against the hull. "I'm Antoinette," said the one steering. 22. "This is my boat, well, my uncle's, but I'm allowed to take it out." She grinned crookedly. Next to her sat Frauke, 19, with curly red hair and a baseball cap. "Hi, I'm the one who usually gets seasick, but not today." Then Nina, 20, slim with long blonde braids. "And I'm the one who told Antoinette we should go out today. Lucky for you." And right at the back, directly beside Bernd, sat Marion, 18, the youngest. Long, wavy brown hair that the wind blew into her face. Big, warm brown eyes. She smiled at him as if she had known him forever. "Marion," she said softly and offered him her hand. Her fingers were cool from the wind. "I'm glad we were here at the right moment." They talked while the boat fought its way through the waves. It took nearly an hour to reach the harbor. Bernd told him about his job in Herrenberg and the old boat he had actually wanted to scrap. The girls said they were spending a week at the lake together. Antoinette studied in Constance. Frauke was training to be a hotel specialist. Nina was already a qualified office clerk. And Marion? She was a nursing student and came from Herrenberg. "Really?" Bernd asked, surprised. "We're practically neighbors." Marion nodded and looked at him again, this time a little longer. "Looks like it." In the harbor, they helped him tie up the boat. The mast lay across the deck like a fallen tree. They laughed about how close it had been. "Listen," Marion said suddenly as they all stood on the pier. "We were planning to go to this little restaurant at the harbor tonight, Zum Fischer. Would you like to join us? As a thank you for letting us rescue you. Or for allowing us to rescue you." The others nodded immediately. Antoinette winked. "We don't bite." Bernd hesitated for only a second. "I'd love to. 8 o'clock?" At 8 o'clock, they sat at a large wooden table outside under string lights. The wind had died down, and the air was mild. They ate fresh whitefish, drank blackcurrant spritzers, and talked. 3 hours flew by. Bernd spoke about his work and the machines he designed. The girls shared stories from their training and funny moments on the lake. Marion listened especially attentively. When he spoke, she tilted her head slightly, as if she wanted to save every word. Around 11, they walked back to their accommodations. The girls had a small vacation apartment just 5 minutes from the harbor. Bernd had a campsite for his station wagon and tent. On the way, Marion fell back a little. The other three walked ahead, laughing about something. She matched her steps to Bernd's. "Can I ask you something?" she said quietly. "Sure." "Earlier, when you were talking about the boat, you mentioned that you went out anyway. And later you said that in difficult times, you always think of someone who never leaves. Did you mean Jesus?" Bernd stopped. He hadn't even realized he had said that. "Yes," he answered honestly. "I'm a Christian. Not the kind who runs to church every Sunday, but he's there, especially since the thing with my ex." Marion nodded slowly. Her eyes shone in the light of the street lamp. "I've never met anyone who talks about it like that, as if it's real, not just a children's Sunday school story." They kept walking. The others were already almost at the apartment. "Listen," Marion said, "we're actually leaving a day earlier than planned tomorrow, but would you like to do something together tomorrow morning? Just for a bit before we pack?" "I'd love that." The next day, they met at 10 at the harbor. The other three came too, but it was clear Marion was leading. They walked along the shore, skipped stones across the water, and talked about everything. Bernd told her about the Bible verse that had meant a lot to him lately. "I am with you always." Marion listened and asked deep questions. "And what if you don't know if you can believe it? What do you do then?" In the afternoon, the girls said goodbye. Antoinette hugged Bernd tightly. Take care of your boat, or better yet, take care of yourself. Frauke and Nina waved. Marion stayed a moment longer. I'll write to you, she said, if that's okay. More than okay. The week passed like a dream for Bernd. He made emergency repairs to the boat, went out once more, carefully, without wind, and thought constantly about Marion. Her long hair, her laugh, the way she said, thank you, when he explained something. Back home in Herrenberg, everyday life returned. But 2 days after his return, the first message arrived. Hey Bernd, are you back in Herrenberg? It was really nice meeting you. Would you like to grab a coffee next week? Marion. They met. Then again, and again. 2 to 4 times a week. Sometimes at a cafe, sometimes for a walk on the Schlossberg, sometimes at Bernd's place where he cooked for her. Marion told him about her nursing training, the hard shifts, the patients who stole her heart. Bernd listened and sometimes prayed for her in the evenings. Their conversations grew deeper. They talked about God, about doubt, about forgiveness. Marion had never met anyone who lived their faith so alive. I want that too, she said one evening as they sat on his sofa. Tears ran down her cheeks. I want to know Jesus the way you do. Will you help me? Bernd took her hand. Of course, every day if you want. That evening in April, Marion knelt in Bernd's small apartment. She cried, laughed, and prayed out loud. It was emotional and real, as if something inside her had finally come home. When she stood up, she hugged Bernd for a long time. Thank you, she whispered. Now I'm not alone anymore. Their relationship grew quickly but carefully. They became inseparable. After 6 months, Bernd introduced her to his parents. His mother hugged Marion immediately. You're good for him, she said softly. Marion took him to her parents in Kupingen, a small, loving family. Her father, a quiet craftsman, patted Bernd on the shoulder. Take good care of her. Just under a year after they met on Lake Constance, they got married. In a beautiful brick church in Herrenberg. Marion wore a simple white dress, her long hair open. Bernd stood at the front, his heart so full he could barely speak. Antoinette, Frauke, and Nina were there as bridesmaids. During the sermon, Marion held Bernd's hand so tightly, as if she never wanted to let go again. Over the following months, the 3 friends were changed by the visits and conversations. Bernd had never preached to them. He had simply lived it. But his peace, his love, and the way he spoke about Jesus touched them. Frauke later came to Bernd and Marion and said quietly, I've started reading the Bible you gave me. I think I want this too. Antoinette and Nina remained skeptical, but visited more often. The friendship stayed. Bernd and Marion moved into a small apartment with a balcony together. They both worked, he as an engineer, she as a newly qualified nurse. In the evenings, they prayed together. Some days they argued, on others they laughed late into the night. But there was always this certainty. They were not alone. Sometimes, when they drove to the banks of the Neckar on weekends, Bernd would tell the story of the old sailboat. Marion would smile, lean her head on his shoulder and say, the mast had to break. Otherwise, we would never have found each other. Bernd would kiss her forehead. God writes the best stories, even with broken boats. And so their life together began, not perfect, but real, with Jesus at the center, and with an old sailboat they never scrapped. It now stands in the garden of his in-laws, as a reminder of the day the wind came and 4 young women rescued a lonely engineer, and were rescued themselves. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for watching this story with me until the end. In a world that often feels cold and noisy, stories like this, profound, heartfelt, and full of faith, are so important. If you'd like more of these, please subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new one. Let me know in the comments how this story touched you. I really read every single comment. May God bless you with a wonderful day. See you soon.